China's tech giants kicking off the Lunar New Year with a new wave of AI competition. Major AI model releases from both Alibaba and ByteDance. Our Deirdre Bosa has more in today's Tech Check. Hey, Dee.
Hey, Carl, good morning. So there's just been a blitz of AI announcements. Time to what is the biggest consumer window of the year. Together, they reveal something the market may be underestimating. China isn't just competing on one slice of the AI race. It's building out the entire ecosystem, from frontier models to homegrown memory chips to humanoid robots performing on China's biggest stage. Now, that last one, humanoids, caught the most attention simply because the progress from last year to this year, it just kind of hits you over the head. On the left of your screen, you've got Unitree's robot line dance last year. And then on the right is this year, 2026, far more fluid and far more precise, as you can see. Now, the progress that matters most to investors, it's actually not one that you can see. It starts...
O ano passado é o que está à esquerda. E este ano, 2026, é o que está à direita. E tu vês só a diferença de como é que está a evolução desses robôs humanoides. É algo assim inacreditável. Fazem cada salto mortal e são exatamente como seres humanos. Tu não vais conseguir distinguir, se tu estiveres assim de longe, se é um ser humano ou se é um robô. Não vais conseguir. Só se estiveres mais próximo é que vais ver. Ou se estiver a fazer alguma coisa que tu dizes, isso não é possível que seja um humano, porque é assustador isto. Isto aqui é algo inacreditável. É um ano. A evolução, da evolução, olha,
the chips powering these
saltar na
robots,
parede.
sensors, processors, etc. These are basic chips that China already makes domestically. So it is self-dependent here. Now move up to memory.
Quer dizer, a China fez isso para mostrar, né? Porque é o ano novo chinês.
And here, even American companies are already starting to take notice amid a global shortage that is seeing prices up 90% in a single quarter. Apple even is reportedly in talks with Chinese chip makers YMTC and CXMT to fill the gap. And then, guys, you've got the hardest part, which is the top of the market, the advanced chips that actually train AI models. This is still NVIDIA's world, but China is making a lot of progress here. Huawei's Ascend chips, they're already training domestic models, and every new release out of China this week, it is proof that they are finding ways to do more with less. You've got...
É exatamente isso a China. A China faz muito com o pouco que tem. Desde que Trump veio com essas tarifas e impedir a China de ter os chips que potencializa a evolução mais rápido, principalmente no que toca à inteligência artificial, aos robôs e tudo, a China agora está a criar só próprios chips e vai ficar dependente dos Estados Unidos. O que é incrível para a China, porque a China, isso vai lhes permitir simplesmente começar a vender aí, já vende todos os chips que têm a ver com básico, né? Tipo coisas que temos dia a dia, tipo eletrodoméstico, mesmo alguns computadores e telemóveis. A maioria desses chips que temos, em tudo que temos, sensores, as luzes, não sei o que, tudo os chineses é que fabricam. Mas o que toca aquilo mesmo mais preciso, mais evoluído, ainda não produzem, mas agora estão a produzir. É por isso que estamos a ver já o resultado do ano passado para este ano, a evolução desses robôs. E isto, esquece. A China vai... eu acho que já ultrapassou os Estados Unidos, isso não há dúvida. Agora falta ver os próximos tempos, como é que vai ser essa relação entre a China, os Estados Unidos e o mundo. Eu acho que os Estados Unidos, o Trump, por mais que nós falamos que o Trump é isso, aquilo, ele está a fazer bem para não acabar com o mundo. Ele prefere retirar-se já e deixar o lugar para a China. Para as pessoas fazerem os negócios com a China e temos um mundo em que possamos respirar a paz, porque não temos aquela rivalidade entre a Europa e os Estados Unidos contra a China. Não, porque os Estados Unidos ok, estou aqui com vocês, negociamos, fazemos as coisas e vocês não precisam estar só comigo, podem fazer negócios como o principal, digamos, competidor, que é a China. Porque os Estados Unidos só tem um competidor, só um que compete com os Estados Unidos, que é a China. O resto, ninguém consegue competir com os Estados Unidos. Ninguém. Porque hoje em dia, quem tem tecnologia tem tudo para ser independente. E a China é o único país que tem a tecnologia mais avançada do mundo depois dos Estados Unidos. Então, nos próximos anos, acho que pode ultrapassar os Estados Unidos em termos de tecnologia. Bem, também não sei, porque os Estados Unidos têm essa coisa de... eles têm sempre alguma coisa embaixo que ninguém sabe, mas eles têm. o que pronto, nunca podemos menosprezar essa parte dos Estados Unidos. Mas é incrível ver o que a China está a fazer.
ByteDance's C-Dance video generator. It is so good that it's gone viral and drawn even legal threats from Disney and Paramount. You've got Alibaba open sourcing its most powerful model, and anticipation it continues to build around DeepSeek's next model, which we are expecting any day now. Guys, China has not replaced NVIDIA, but it just has to keep closing the gap, which is what we're seeing. This Lunar New Year showed the world that it's doing exactly that across every single layer of the AI stack.
If they're closing the gap, Deirdre, I wonder if that changes the Trump administration's take on selling some of the older, chips of NVIDIA to China, if, again, it's still finding ways to help them compete with us.
I think it was an extremely calculated move that comes from the philosophy that David Sachs and a lot of other people in Silicon Valley have here, is that you don't just cut them off, because then more of these models are going to be built using Huawei chips and some of the newer players. So the whole idea that necessity breeds invention, which is sort of what we've been seeing, which is why they've made so much progress over the last few years when those export controls have been in place. So by allowing an older generation of NVIDIA chips in, the calculation is that you won't give such a boost to the domestic accelerators. You still keep them dependent on the ecosystem here.
Now, the world is ringing in the year of the fire horse, and China is marking Lunar New Year with an extraordinary and unique spectacle. Dozens of robots took to the stage to deliver a knockout martial arts performance at China's annual CCTV Spring Festival Gala. It was a showcase of the Chinese push to pioneer in the fields of robotics and AI.
Right outside my door here in Los Angeles, even though it's early in the morning, there are a number of automated vehicles driving and a number of small, robots doing delivery. But I think it's a sign and a statement, and China's very clear about it, that it is, very much on the cutting edge when it comes to AI and technological futures, including robotics. But we also see this, as I mentioned, here in the United States. Someone like Mr. Elon Musk mentioned recently in Davos that, within a few years, he said within a decade, there would be more humanoid robots on this planet than actual human beings. So I think all of this raises the question, what do we all want with these, with the emergence of these types of humanoid robots? Obviously, AI has already emerged, but what happens when AI is in these robotic forms, which is now becoming more and more commonplace?
Well, I'm sure we'll get to that in a second, Ramesh, but I'm curious about something you said there.
Parece que a China está à frente dos Estados Unidos em termos de robôs humanoides. O que estamos a ver aqui na China é algo inacreditável.
And lines of code to replace all the people they're losing.
I don't know about replacing the people, but we do know, as you mentioned, the Chinese population is declining. We also know that even though the one-child policy was long ago released, people are still not having more children. I mean, that's sort of a general issue that's happening in many parts of the world. And I think we're also seeing how more and more the future is going to be the deployment of these humanoid robots in at the minimum particular specialized settings, like factory settings, industrial settings, maybe agricultural settings. But all of this raises the big question again, what is this going to mean for working class peoples economically? Do we really want this to be the case? What about the emergence of more and more humanoid robots on the battlefield, drones, and so on? All of this is further and further meaning that our futures, economically, militarily, politically, even personally, people are turning to robots and AI as therapists, even companions, even potential mates. Do we want this? This is the big question. And what are the appropriate domains for these humanoid robots to emerge, and what are maybe inappropriate for us?
I get the sense from talking to you that the genie is already out of the bottle, and it's inevitable that there is going to be some sort of race to the top here. I mean, let's talk about the global tech race, because we often hear about American AI, like ChatGPT, etc. I mean, China is now, I understand, shipping 90% of the world's humanoid robots. Is China, therefore, actually winning the tech race by focusing on robots that you can touch and see and interact with, even have relationships with, you suggested, instead of just software like the Americans do?
Well, first and foremost, I don't know if it's considered winning for us to live in a world full of humanoid robots around us, where maybe at some point we won't be able to easily discern the distinction between another human being and a humanoid robot. So to me, that's not necessarily winning. But, here in the United States, companies like Boston Dynamics, all the big tech companies, people like Palmer Luckey, are developing various types of advanced robots. We're even seeing robots like the Neo robot, for example, which, by the way, is nothing like the character Neo in the Matrix itself, where the character Neo is trying to escape the Matrix. They're calling this robot Neo. It's a sort of humanoid robot that will live with you at home and do various things for you. Why are we as human beings not trusting as much in one another and in these robotic technologies is a big question. I think we're seeing more and more people turn away from one another, have more suspicion toward one another, and troublingly, though perhaps very attractively, turn to robots of different forms, including AI ones. So as far as the space race with AI, it's China and the US, they're competing. We saw many revelations, ways in which China was very resource conscious compared to the United States with its DeepSeek model. So, that was about a year ago, those revelations that for pennies on the dollar, they were able to emulate top GPT type large language models. But I think that this race is occurring more and more, but I think it's also because it's driven by private industry, which is scale and grow at all costs. And here in the US, a lot of the humanoid robots are being funded by our taxpayer money, including a lot of AI investments themselves.
Ramesh, I want to get this question into you because obviously you've seen these Chinese robots embracing what looks like Chinese culture. I mean, you've written about how technology should respect culture. When we see a high-tech robot performing ancient martial arts with a sword, is that a gimmick? Or does it show a respect for China's ancient past?
I mean, I think it's pointing to China as a future technological power, which it already is, and its past. In and of itself, for me, just looking at all of this, because I was combing through a lot of the video, before we came on air, it doesn't seem like necessarily anything troubling, where there's lots of examples of acrobatic kinds of things that technologies can already do. But it's like about putting it in its proper place, right? It's not about letting it take over for us. For me, it's really about reinvesting in the human condition and the ways we want to work with technologies to have a flourishing future. But first and foremost, everybody needs to feel like they're more secure and taken care of and less divided in these times, because in the US, AI is more and more disentangling us from one another. And there's clear research showing that.
Well, it's been an extremely illuminating conversation, Ramesh. Pleasure having you on Al Jazeera. Ramesh Srinivasan, AI policy specialist at UCLA. Thank you.
Estamos a ter... Vamos ter mundo totalmente diferente em poucos anos, porque os robôs vão tomar conta do mundo. Não temos, não há outra forma de fazer a não ser entregar o mundo na mão dos robôs e pronto, os robôs cuidarem das coisas, principalmente o que toca a ver com aqueles trabalhos que são muito desgastantes para o ser humano, então o robô passa a fazer. É isto aí, temos aí a China a fazer as coisas que vão permitir o mundo avançar mais rápido e termos as coisas que necessitamos para ter uma vida melhor em toda a parte do mundo, porque isso aí com o avanço tecnológico, o que vai acontecer é baixar o preço das coisas e termos uma vida melhor. Se tínhamos uma vida melhor até agora, agora vamos ter uma vida ainda muito melhor, que tem a ver com conforto, com tudo. E isso, agora a nossa preocupação vai ser mais intelectual, como termos uma paz, todas essas coisas que nós precisamos, tipo, que tem a ver mesmo com o cérebro. Isto é que vai nos preocupar mais, porque tudo que tem a ver com coisas materiais e tudo, a tecnologia vai fazer isto, vai fazer isto para nós. Nós só vamos estar ali a programar, a acompanhar, ver se tudo está a andar bem. E isto é um avanço assim que ninguém há 100 anos diria, Ninguém mesmo. É incrível, incrível. Mas pronto, vamos aí. Subscrevam o canal e estamos juntos.